So the Eagles' second preseason game is right around the corner, and there are several surprising players to keep your eyes on, as edge rusher Bryce Huff looked dominant against the Patriots in joint practice, and he clearly continues to improve throughout camp, while position group that was thought to be a massive weakness for the Birds has been much better than expected. Also, Mekhi Becton is clearly in the lead for the right guard spot, but Lane Johnson says that Steen is still fighting hard. Plus, Jalen Hurts seems to have eliminated his biggest weakness from the past. Speaking of which, will the starters actually play on Thursday? Well, let's talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news. And we won't waste any time, let's get straight into it. So let's start off with the question that everyone wants to know the answer to, being will the starters, specifically the offensive starters, play on Thursday night against the Patriots? Now, last week the Eagles kind of got our hopes up when reports came out just hours before their first game against the Ravens that the Birds did in fact plan to play their starters for a series or two, but after going through pre-game warmups, Nick Sirianni and the coaches changed their minds and decided that the starting offense would not play. And if you'll remember after the game, Nick Sirianni explained why he made that decision.
Yeah, just the chance of the weather how it was all day. It feels a little wet when we got out there. Just wanted to have a clean, clean operation. Didn't want to put them on something that I felt like with any of the weather could have been a little messy. I didn't want to give them. I wanted to give them a clean track.
So based on that, it sounds like if the weather forecast was good, then they would have played. And he also didn't close the door on them playing in either of the other preseason games, so I don't know what the likelihood is, but I wouldn't rule out the starters playing Thursday, at least for a series, especially with the weather forecast looking good. That being said, I wouldn't really get my hopes up either. Now, one thing I am confident we will get to see during this preseason game is more developments at the right guard battle, which as of right now, it's clear that Mekhi Becton is leading that, even though this is the first time he's ever played right guard in his career. Speaking of which, Landon Dickerson seems to think that Becton is doing a fantastic job making this transition and says he's playing well.
Mekhi's been doing great. Transition to guard, I think he's done well. Started off camp, kind of swinging tackles, and I think he's settling into his spot at guard right now. A little bit of adjustment for him, but the way he's built, the way he can move, his long arms, his reach, lateral quickness. I think right now he's really, excelling at that position, and it is a bit of a, it's a growing problem. Not problem, but it's an adjustment for him. But he's handling it extremely well.
So you love to hear Dickerson express confidence in his fellow guard like that, and if everything that he said is true, it's no wonder Becton currently seems to be leading the race, as he's been pretty much getting all the first team reps at right guard, and in the Birds' first preseason game, he started at that spot before coming out after one possession, while Steen was at left guard and then went to right guard after Becton went out and played the entire first half. But just because Becton is clearly leading the battle, we still shouldn't count out Steen quite yet, as Lane Johnson had this to say about him on Tuesday.
He's fighting. I think he got nicked up with the ankle last week, so he's been playing through that. But Tyler's gotten so much stronger, I think, from last year. So he has some plays that really wow you, and I think once he gets past the ankle injury where he's not thinking so much, it'll become easier. But he's the guy that's definitely in the mix.
So based on that, it sounds like Steen's ankle injury is kind of lingering and is still affecting him. So you got to question whether that's played a role in him kind of losing his starting spot right now. And you also have to wonder if when he gets fully healthy, if he's going to have a chance to reclaim it. So it'll just be interesting to watch him and Becton throughout the rest of the summer, and specifically what the Eagles do with them on Thursday night in the preseason game versus the Patriots. And it'll also be interesting to watch the linebackers, as heading into training camp, this was expected to be probably the Eagles' biggest weakness from a positional group standpoint, and while that still admittedly has probably been the case, they've actually apparently been much better than expected during training camp. And don't worry, we're going to get into that and so much more in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content coming throughout preseason, training camp, or at the start of the regular season, make sure you guys subscribe and also really importantly turn on notifications. I think that's a win-win for the both of us, because not only do I get more people consistently watching these videos, but you don't miss any other Eagles content just like this, and you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. So again, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like down below. Let's see if we can hit 800 likes on today's video. Now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. Now, as I was saying, the Eagles linebackers have actually been a lot better than expected, with Jimmy Kempsey of the Philly Voice writing an article detailing how the linebackers have been surprisingly good at camp, and he went through each and every guy from the group and detailed the positive traits that they've shown, saying Zach Bond has shown toughness and is also clearly a smart player that knows his assignments, while Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has great instincts and really doesn't look like a rookie out there. Then Ben Van Sumeren is super athletic and apparently is arguably the most improved player on the Eagles team from last year's camp to this year's, and then he also had some great things to say about Devin White, being, quote, "When he correctly diagnoses the play, he gets to where he needs to be fast. There are no questions about his pure physical ability. He plays with some fire, and there's playmaking potential." So that's definitely nice to hear, with White clearly being this team's top linebacker and a leader for the defense. So with the Eagles relying on him so heavily, and also him coming off a down year in his last season with Tampa Bay, it's just nice to hear that he's been impressing at camp, and his physical skills and instincts have been on full display. And then it was also nice to hear some more positive things about Nakobe Dean, as with everyone being so critical of the third-year linebacker lately, it's just nice to hear him getting some much-deserved credit recently, including from Kemsky, who said, quote, "When he plays downhill, he's physical and feisty. He'll stick his face in the fan, so to speak, and is willing to throw his body around as a run stopper and blitzer." And this isn't the only praise that Nakobe has gotten recently, as yesterday, ESP tweeted out, quote, "Nakobe Dean is having a really good camp. Started slow, but he is making a play almost daily now. Staying healthy and getting consistent reps has been huge for him." So that's definitely awesome, because Nakobe is somebody who Eagles fans really had high hopes for after we drafted him in the third round in the 2022 draft, but he's really had his struggles dating back to last season, whether it just be staying healthy or on-field struggles mainly in pass coverage. And while those struggles still exist, it's just great to hear that Nakobe is improving and headed in the right direction. And Brandon Graham actually had some advice for Dean after Tuesday's practice.
You know what? Just keep that edge. Everything you said about him, Rube, it ain't true. So, he gonna make sure. In my mind, I always kind of just, you got to make it up. You got to get some motivation. And so for him, I just say stay motivated. Just know that even when you do make good plays, the work is not done until you hold that trophy. And you got to put in the work that you started with during the offseason. You got to stay consistent and just not block out the noise, because I know how hard it is sometimes being young to block out the noise, but it's like if you can, or use it as motivation, because can't nothing change until you do what you got to do out here, and that's just putting that work in one day at a time.
So hopefully, like BG said, Dean sticks with it and keeps working hard, and eventually maybe he can become a good player for this Eagles defense, even if it doesn't seem like he's really in line to start this season. Now, somebody that is in line to start is edge rusher Bryce Huff, and it's super promising that he seems to be continuing to improve throughout camp, as Huff is somebody who, like Dean, has seen his fair share of criticism during camp, and the reasoning for the criticism coming in his direction is because he just hasn't been talked about too much during camp, while other guys have made headlines, and everyone really has super high expectations for Huff, as he's supposed to come in here and replace the production that Hassan Reddick has given the Eagles for the last 2 years right away, despite the fact that Huff has never really been an every down kind of guy in his career, or somebody who plays on rundowns that much. So naturally, it's been a bit of an adjustment for him, but it seems like he's kind of starting to get into the swing of things. And specifically during Tuesday's joint practice against the Patriots, he really shined, with reporter Andrew DeCecco tweeting out, quote, "On the defensive side, where I focused most of my attention today, I thought edge Bryce Huff had a really strong practice, registered a sack, and made some physical plays against the run." So it's definitely promising that Huff is starting to make his presence felt, and also it makes sense that Huff just makes more plays when he doesn't have to go against Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata on every play. I mean, we do have to remember that when it comes to evaluating how Huff is performing during camp, and overall, I'm just really not too worried about Huff, and I think he'll be just fine when the season rolls around, and hopefully we at least get to see him out there for maybe one series on Thursday night. And again, as I've said before, I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts and the starting offense, because I'm really eager to see how QB1 and the rest of the star-studded cast look in Kellen Moore's new look offense. I mean, we've obviously heard great things with Jalen lighting it up during camp, and all Hurts teammates saying great things about him, and that includes Brandon Graham, who says Hurts looks faster, but also seems to have a more positive outlook heading into the season.
I mean, you could just see that Jalen's getting comfortable by the day, and just the way he's moving even quicker than he was last year. I think he was probably dealing with some stuff last year, but you can tell that he got a new and improved, view of, just life this year. And I'm excited for him, because you can tell that he is excited. You see him, like, y'all always be on him about smiling, but I know him personally, so it'd be like, it's like that boy is really happy with what's going on. So I can't wait to see him go out there and do his thing.
Yeah, again, just based on that and everything else that I've heard about Hurts from camp this year, I just cannot wait to watch him this season, because I think he's going to do great things. And something else that is added onto the excitement is that based on recent reports, it seems like Hurts has greatly improved on one of his biggest weaknesses. As in the past, and specifically last year, Hurts just wasn't great when he was forced off of his first read, as he had just a 66.7 grade and a 36.4% success rate in those situations according to PFF, but during camp this year, he has reportedly gotten significantly better at just going through his reads, staying in the pocket, and taking what the defense is giving him, even when it's not the number one option. With Brandon Lee Gowton recently writing, quote, "Much less flashy, but still very critical. Hurts' comfort level scanning the entire field, going through his reads, and then decisively checking down to the open receiver. This outcome is much preferable to him regularly holding onto the ball for an eternity and then drifting out of the pocket only to throw it away or take off running. Obviously, there are times when it makes sense for Hurts to extend the play and try to make something happen, but sometimes it's important to not force the issue, take what the defense is giving, and get to the next play. So overall, you just gotta love that Hurts is continuing to get better and make his weaknesses his strengths. And again, I just cannot wait to watch him this season, and hopefully for a little bit in that preseason game tomorrow. Speaking of which, I'm going to be covering everything from that as well as the rest of the Eagles preseason, training camp, and obviously when we get to the start of the regular season. So if you don't want to miss any of that Eagles coverage, make sure you subscribe, and also again, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. And also while you're at it, make sure you drop a like to show some support. It really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to 800 likes on today's video, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. That also helps me out a ton. And also, if you want to watch another video going over Eagles joint practice against the Patriots, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.